just flip-flops on, singing to that highway song. Got a little naive smile, the kind that drives you out. Nothing like playing with fire, brings boy to life. Be with the fuse you light, you're good, you're dynamite. You made my day when you walked into town beside me, whispered with your eyes, let's go. You made me say, what's your name, girl, you're lonely. Can I call you if I ever go down this road? And
The following is a presentation of the Belly Up Sports Media Network.
14:20 in the morning, 14 minutes and 20 seconds worth of sports talk to get you through your daily commute. Hot takes, recaps, best bets, and a little humor to get your day going in the right direction. Sit back, grab your coffee, and let's get into it. All right, 14:20 in the morning for this 23rd day of August, 2023. Today's show is, as always, brought to you by SeatGeek.com, the SeatGeek app. Use promo code 1420pod at SeatGeek.com today. Get $20 off your first purchase at SeatGeek.com or the SeatGeek app. Remember, we are part of the Belly Up Media Network. Go to BellyUpSports.com for all their great articles and other podcasts available throughout the great network as well. And thank you once again for making us a part of your day each and every day, whether it be in podcast form or on YouTube or Facebook Live or whatever you guys are watching on. Thank you very much. Anyways, last night, the Chicago White Sox decided to make some wholesale changes at the top of the organization, letting go of GM Rick Hahn and longtime executive vice president and former general manager Ken Williams. Yesterday they got it done. I'm not surprised by this at all, but I'm not going to also pretend that I'm the biggest White Sox knowledge guy at all. But it makes sense that a team that starts out with some higher expectations, sits at 49-77, you got to make some changes, and sometimes the changes have to be made at the top. When you start your season off 7-21, as the White Sox did, and didn't have a hope in hell. Once you start off 7-21, your season's over. 1 month in, you have to make some changes, and the White Sox have chosen not to make any changes. They were very stagnant, very stale throughout the season. Nothing going on. 81-81 last year, and they had pretty high hopes of getting back to playoffs after being in the playoffs in 2021 when they won the AL West or AL Central. And it's one of those things that you need to find something that's going on, and too often ownership sits on their hands and doesn't make any moves at that point or at this point in the season, and they blame it on maybe the on-field guy, or they start bringing players up here and there and everywhere and figuring out what's wrong when sometimes it's right in front of you what the problem is. Now that you're giving somebody else the opportunity to clean up this mess and getting some outside eyes in to see what the problem is, and maybe getting some voices telling GM or the ownership group that maybe there is some problems at the top, and we need to figure out what this is, and some outside eyes, and maybe some people that aren't that were a little bit timid to say anything before because the past regime has been too afraid to say anything or just wouldn't say anything because it just fell on deaf ears all the time. You get a decent set of ears that will, or eyeballs that can get earballs listening and everything else, so it can kind of help a lot. And moving to top range guys is probably the best move that can happen with the White Sox. And specifically that we're talking about here is that they have a payroll that is it's mid-range throughout Major League Baseball, and it's actually number one in the American League Central, so that's not a problem whatsoever. The White Sox, they don't spend crazy money like the Mets, Yankees, Dodgers, Padres, and everybody else that you can think of in there, but being a mid-range payroll team in I don't want to say a small market, but not a huge fan base in Chicago. It could probably be bigger considering the size that Chicago is, but remember they do share that town, and they do share a fan base, and all the two fan bases don't get along very well. They do share a baseball group, I guess is one way of putting it, with the Chicago Cubs. It's a Cubs town right now, the way the Cubs have won a World Series most recently, but you look at the White Sox, who have won a World Series back in, it's been in 2005 the last time that they did do it. They won some pennants. They've been had some chances to get to a World Series here and there, but living in past success doesn't do you a whole bunch of good. Living in the now is what you need to do, and living off of a World Series in 2005, which is 18 years ago, that's a whole generation of baseball players. So having these guys, having Williams and having Hahn say bye-bye, see you later is probably the best thing that an ownership group can do at this stage of the season. Sometimes you just need to liven things up a bit, and you get a little bit stale, and so you need a bit of a change at the top to get what's done and see what the mess that there is and see what it is, because having these guys who made the mess, who got the problem, who created the issue, having them making decisions at this point of the year when it's obviously you're not going to make the playoffs or even make any kind of a move whatsoever, and having the guys who created this mess, having them allowed to do so at this stage of the season doesn't make a whole bunch of sense to me or anybody else. It does, and you got to commend Reinsdorf for taking the bull by the horns and saying, okay, thanks, bye, see you, it's time to go, and having something a little bit different, looking at different eyes, like I said, having different eyes and ears and watching things and getting to the bottom of what the mess is and seeing what it is that's actually in the farm system and actually what you do have on a talent base, and actually getting into the books and seeing what the future may hold, the recent future, like the near future may hold, because the White Sox were in a situation right now. They had a bit of a rebuild, but they had some players that were serviceable and have some guys that can actually have an impact for right now. You get the old guard running the things, and people get a little bit timid to say anything, so then they don't, and that's a bad thing that any organization can get into. But so cleaning house up right now is probably the only way you can possibly do it, and make sure that there is things moving forward, because the team's not going to go away. There is investments in it. There is a ballpark. You still got to put a team in every year, so you can't just give up and say that's it, and say year after year this is what we got, because like I said, if you're a mid-payroll team, you're trying to win. Are you trying to win that hard? Who knows? It was there salary restraints? Probably is. Every team has them. They don't have deep pockets like Steve Cohen does with the Mets. So you got to wonder what they're going to do next and how they're going to do it. And maybe there were some meetings in the last month or so that maybe pointed all signs go. It's time to make some changes at the top and not keep making changes at the field level. The field level management change, it always works. No matter what, whenever you get a new field boss, the team goes on a bit of a heater, wins 4 or 5, usually wins the very first game of the with the new regime in there, but eventually that just goes back to what it was. So rarely is a baseball team the problem or the product. The problem on the field is rarely the on-field skipper, the on-field manager, the hitting coach, yes, the pitching coach, yes, but in general, it's rarely the on-field manager that is the cause of the problem. And the White Sox decided, you know what, let's see what the real problem is. Changing a manager now is only going to put lipstick on the old pig and hide our issues. So they went and changed the top of the spectrum of what's going on there with the Chicago White Sox, because the thing is, when you have these changes and you have guys who've been around for a long time, shit can only run downhill so fast. It took me till 8 minutes and 20 seconds this recording to swear, so I'm getting better at that. But the crap can only run downhill so far, and eventually it piles up and it gets so high that eventually it'll never get to the owner, obviously, because the owner runs a team, but it's got to get to the sergeants right below the ownership group and see what the problem is. And that's what happened with Chicago White Sox, and they said, okay, well, there's a problem and we got to change it right here, right now. They have some talent, they have some really good players, they have some one of the best in baseball in Tim Anderson, but maybe he's part of the problem. And now that the GM and the assistant GM to the traveling manager George Costanza's gone, and the vice president of baseball operations, I'm talking, now that he's gone, maybe Anderson doesn't have that person babying him anymore, and there's nobody else to blame but the players. So now it's a situation where Anderson can, who's a bit of a nozzle, probably one of the bigger nozzles in baseball, but now it's like, okay, no more excuses. We're paying you a bunch of money. You can't go crying to daddy anymore when things don't go your way. You can't go crying to grandpa anymore when things aren't going your way. It's time to play some baseball and get things going. They've made changes. They've had some serviceable players in that organization, but it's just one of those things that you have to just cut the head off the snake and see what the problem is and what the decision is moving forward. And when you have a team like Chicago in a big market like that, you need to figure out a way to get it done. And that's what Reinsdorf did yesterday. And it's surprising. You always wonder how those conversations go when you have a guy who's been around for so long, like Williams experience has. Like, so he's been around since early 2000s, I believe. So they won that World Series in 05. But you wonder how those conversations go. You say, like, if things aren't working and it's your fault, because it is. Like, you have to point the fingers eventually. Like I said, you got to cut the head off the snake eventually, and you have to say that's it. We got to do something. And Reinsdorf did that yesterday when he stated that they're in a competitive window of a rebuild. So the win now kind of thing is there, and to be that far below 500, to be in a just ahead of a team with the Kansas City Royals, who were very, very blatant, saying that they weren't going to win this year. And when you have a team who's in a competitive window, in a win now kind of mode, like maybe not a World Series mode, but a competitive team mode, to make a playoff run when we're barely ahead of a team that's trying to lose, basically, that's not a good thing. So Reinsdorf, he said it, a change in their baseball leadership had to happen. Something had to be done, and it's not the owner's not going to change the thing. The chairman's not going anywhere. It has to get done at the highest level possible. And it's one of those things that needs to be done more consistently, I think. So when you see Reinsdorf make that deal yesterday with the Chicago White Sox and saying enough's enough, we have to move forward for our fan base, for everybody else involved, for the players that we have signed long term. We have to figure out what the problem is with the rest of the team, see where it is with the rest of the organization, see where it is with the farm system, see it is with the baseball analytics guys, see what the team actually has, and then have a new set of ears and get a consulting group in there. I guess I'm saying get a consulting group in there saying that, you know what, there needs to be a change. Here's what other teams are doing. Here's what these guys are doing. Here's what this team is doing, and get new eyeballs and earballs and new voices involved in that, because that's the only way things are going to change, and the only the way things are going to evolve. And if you don't evolve, and that's how evolution always works, if you're an ant or whatever it might be, only the strong survive, and you need to change, especially with the way baseball's played now, all sports in general. If you don't do something where the teams are changing, the teams are making a situation better for themselves and trying something different and just saying this is the way it is, this is the way we've always done it, you're not going to evolve, and you're going to end up in a heck of a situation where things aren't getting better. And it's just one of those things. So I got to commend Reinsdorf for making that change yesterday. I got to commend the White Sox and the rest of however that conversation went. Yeah, Reinsdorf is at the top of the totem pole, obviously, but he has to pass that by or get a lot of conversation with other people in the organization of how this is all going to pan out and how it's going to pan out for the White Sox and the organization moving forward. And I think they made the right decision, changing things up at that level, get rid of guys that this isn't working. This hasn't worked since 2005. And what we've been trying to do, and the guys that we've drafted, signed, developed, free agents, on and on, it hasn't worked for our team to be that. Because like I said, to start off a season 7-21, that is a very, very obvious situation there, that this team didn't have it right from the get-go, and for them to just stand pat and say that we're okay. Okay isn't good enough for professional sports. It doesn't work that way. So like I said, I commend Reinsdorf. I commend the White Sox organization for making that change at this stage of the season with a month left, saying, okay, here's what we got. Here's what we're going to do. It gives the fan base a bit of hope for next year, saying that we're going to make some changes for next year. We're going to have some things different for next year, and it's going to start at the top, and it's a commitment by the ownership group, but by the White Sox and their remember when those pinstripes first came out? Those are the greatest uniforms. Everybody had those, and those black and white hats are fantastic. But it's a commitment from the ownership group. It's a commitment from the rest of our organization, saying we're moving forward. We want you guys to come back. We're going to try something different next year. And I think a lot of teams got to take a bit of a page out of the White Sox notebook. I'm talking to you, New York Yankees. That's where this is all going. Anyways, all this sounds a little way too familiar, doesn't it, Yankee fans? Anyways, there's my rant for the day, and good luck to the Chicago White Sox moving forward. Here is a little word from our friends at SeatGeek.
The foul baller. If there's a ball that's gone foul, he's gone to get it. Under his watchful gaze, all bevs, binoculars, and ballpark brats are safe. He's the only thing that stands between his section and certain destruction. That's why he only trusts SeatGeek with his tickets. The ticketing app trusted by fans. SeatGeek, so fans can fan.
Anyways, here's Brent's Best Bet, brought to you by Bodog. Make a play at Bodog tonight. Take Jameson Taillon. Chicago Cubs are at Comerica Park in Detroit, and try to hang on to that wild card spot. It's gonna be a great race coming down the wire. Take the Cubs to win tonight. The Mariners are sending right-hander George Kirby to the mound today in Chicago to take on the Chicago White Sox we just talked about. Take the Mariners to win that game. And then tonight, in the Bronx, in New York City, the New York Yankees try to win or to to avoid losing their 10th in a row, longest in team history since 1980, whatever the heck it's going to be, by sending Luis Severino to the hill tonight in the Bronx. Take the Nationals to extend the Yankees' losing streak and be trouble in Pleasant Valley out there in the Bronx. Longest losing streak since 1945 against the 10 tonight. That's the Cubs, Mariners, and Nationals. Put down 20, win 109.70. Make a play at Bodog tonight by clicking on our personalized link. But if you're going to play, make sure you play responsibly. Make a play tonight at Bodog. There it is, Brent's Best Bet, brought to you by Bodog. Click on our link and make yourself some money to support the show in the process. Anyways, there it is for 14:20 in the morning today. Thank you very much, everybody who's listening to the show. We appreciate all the support that you guys give us on a daily basis, but if we can always spread our wings a little bit more and get the word out there a little bit more. So make sure you guys subscribe to our YouTube channel, hit subscribe, let's talk to other people about the show as well, and just keep supporting the show. We appreciate everything you do. That's all I got. We'll talk to you guys tomorrow morning. Have a good day, folks. We'll talk to you tomorrow. You just listened to the 1420 Sports Bar Podcast. 4 beer with sports talk and a whole lot more. We are part of the Belly Up Media Network. Let's get into it. I forgot to say, it doesn't matter where you are. It's